Hi everybody, welcome to Let's Make Art, and we do watercolor projects every single week. It's a lot of fun. I have fun at least.
I love watching.
Good. One day we're gonna just pull a prank and I'm gonna be running the cameras. You're gonna be painting and we're gonna pretend like that's how it is.
What would be great is if we don't do it on April Fools.
Yes.
We're just completely confused and we just roll through it like it's always
We do
happening.
the entire tutorial that way. We never say a thing.
That'd be great. I'll say everything backwards.
So this is the project we're doing today, Wild Trees. And this is inspired by my in-laws. They live in Placerville, California, and their backyard is like just mountains of trees. Is that a hills? Hills of trees? I'll post a picture of their view from their backyard. It's unreal.
Are you saying there are a lot of trees or are
Yeah.
there mountains and trees?
There's like hills. They're on top, and
Okay.
it goes into like a canyon, and so you see
So it's
all these.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is what I have like this one flyaway hair. Got it.
I believe in that.
Yeah, leave that in there. Okay, so we are using 2 paintbrushes for this project, a round 6 and a round 2. Hank and Keith. These are
Our go-to guys.
brushes. Our go-to guys. They do that work for us. You can name your brushes whatever you want. We are using 4 colors for this project. The very first color we are going to use is Dandelion Yellow. The second color we are going to use is Deep Blue. I know on your step out sheet it says True Blue. It's actually Deep Blue. And let me tell you something, they're pretty much the same color. So, the next color is Sepia, Sepia, however you want to say it. I won't yell at you. Keenan, don't yell at me.
Should I yell it now?
No.
Okay, I won't do it
Nobody
either.
needs to yell at anybody.
Yeah, we're all family here.
The next color is Rose Red. These are our 4 colors. And you're like, there's no green. You're right. We mix our green.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We have 5 steps for this project. So our very first step, we are going to do our sky. Our second step, we're going to do this farthest tree line right here that's kind of like brown. Our third step, we are going to do this, our second tree line, which is this green tree line. Our fourth step, we are going to do this grassy knoll.
I do like a grassy knoll. You should have heard that. Sounded ridiculous.
Okay, and the 5th step is the trees, the big trees that are in there. I call this grassy knoll because of the assassination of, you don't know any of that information?
No.
Oh, that's okay. People watching might.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Sorry if that seems disrespectful. It's just grassy and a knoll.
Is there someone named Grassy Knoll?
No,
that got
there's like
assassinated?
there's a conspiracy.
I'll make up a story.
Keenan, you got it. I'm not even going to tell you. You already know. Okay, so our very first step, we're putting in our sky. So if you notice though, our sky doesn't really need to go all the way down because this area is actually the white of the paper. So we're only going to go down probably a little over halfway on our painting. So take your paintbrush, and what you want is you kind of want like a tan color. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the sepia. And you can use straight sepia if you want. If you want it warmer, you can grab in a little bit of the red, a little bit of the yellow. That's going to give it kind of more of an orange. And then I'm going to add a little bit of sepia more to that. You can decide what your color is, and there's not a wrong, you guys. It's your painting. After you have it, you're going to do some crazy brush strokes. We don't want it to be super smooth, so you can really just like this. You can just be like,
Cool.
and then put in some water and just keep on doing that throughout the entire thing. So I'm kind of just doing like rough brush strokes, grabbing some water, kind of spreading that out, but I'm not evenly pushing it because I want these different lines because we're trying to do like maybe a foggy sky or clouds
smoky.
or smoke or,
Yeah.
you know, just a little bit of texture. It's not a bright blue sky going on. There's some funky stuff happening. And I'm using my round 6 for this. If you have a larger brush, feel free to. The benefit of larger brushes is it just helps you fill space faster. So if you're working bigger, if you're trying to fill things quickly, you're going to want to grab a large brush. And yeah, just keep on going till you're about halfway, a little over halfway. If you even want to like throw some of these in there, why not? Like seriously, do whatever you want. Have fun with it. Go crazy. We want these different marks. And one thing I am going to make sure though is that my color, even if it's a light wash, goes all the way, like covers my edge, because when I take the tape off, I want a clean line. And it's going to be so satisfying. Okay, yeah, that looks cool. And then we let it dry.
Oh.
It's a lot of drying in this project.
It's a lot of drying.
And we're back. And we're going to move on to step 2. We are going to do our farthest tree line here. So I kind of did it at like an angle. So this side is covered up by the green, which is great. But we're going to do kind of something like this. So this is kind of the shape we're going for. You can make this tree line whatever shape you want. You don't even have to match me. Like you can do your own thing and I'll love you and appreciate you still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even more.
Maybe even
you're so
more.
Creative.
Okay, so this color, we want it a lighter value. I'm basically gonna use the same brown and introduce just a little bit of blue in there to give it a green hint. Like so. So it's still brown, but it's like a green brown.
Oh.
And so if my tree line, I'm gonna start it probably about in the middle of my paper is gonna be kind of where I start it. And then what I want you guys to remember is that when you're doing tree shapes and silhouettes, I know in your mind you're thinking like this is a tree, right? This is what your mind is gonna tell you that you need to do. And I just want you to ask your mind to go away for a second, or your brain, because really what we see is these trees are overlapping and there's lots of branches and there's lots of leaves and they're silhouetted. So they kind of look more like that. And of course it depends on the type of tree you have and all of that good stuff. And maybe your forest has willow trees and this silhouette is totally wrong. For that, I'm sorry. But when I do my tree lines or my tree shapes, I usually use the side of my brush to do dashes. So I'm gonna kind of like just dash out. And then on the top line, that's where it gets smaller and narrow. So it's basically like a bunch of random dashes, like so. And this is going to be covered up by the green, so that's okay. And then when you get to the top, if you want to switch to a 2 and like randomly, you're going to have some trees taller than other trees. So you can have those kind of poke out like that. And you just kind of want to make sure that it's different enough from the sky. Like there's a slight difference between this tree line and the sky. Not a strong one, but you want there to be enough where we can tell like, oh, okay, those are trees in a distance. So I'm kind of just angling up. And I'm not, honestly, don't worry about this tree line too much because like this entire right side is gonna be covered by a huge tree anyway. And then another tree line is gonna come in and kind of overlap this one. So basically what I'm saying is be messy, don't stress out. They're just random shapes and marks.
Also be happy.
And be happy. Also, have fun. I'm not going to have this one be super detailed, this tree line, because it's really far away and it's harder to get a really good idea of what shapes are what when things are super far away. Maybe they're rocks. Maybe they're...
That'd be cool.
What else is in nature, Keenan?
Bears.
Bears. You never know, you know, so it's like, it's okay.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. And that's step 2. And you're going to wait for this little guy to drive before you move on to step 3. So just give it a minute. Keenan's like, I hate all of this drawing time.
Dance moves so I can fast forward. Testing the wetness or dryness. Hold on. Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. I gotta get the right color. Oh yeah, that's ready to go.
Nice.
That's ready to go. Okay, so we are going to do step 3, our second tree line. Now this tree line is going to come up, kind of overlap, come back down. It's going to be greener, and it's going to kind of fade away to nothing. Because if you're trying to communicate like fog moving in, then you have to think of fog, you kind of paint it backwards. So instead of adding white to cover up the spaces, you lighten the color as you go to eventually nothing. And then that's your fog. Your fog is the white and then the lighter values over the thing. That's what makes it look foggy.
Oh.
So instead of painting your entire thing and then using like white paint to cover it to make it look foggy, you actually start off dark and fade out to nothing, and the lighter values is what is communicating that there is something atmospheric over these things that is making them a lighter value.
Interesting.
Okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna get a green. Now this is too brown. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow, that makes green. I don't want this to be too bright of a green. I'm going to tone it down just a little bit with a tiny, tiny bit of red. Too much red, it will turn it brown. And the reason why is because red and green are complementary colors. So whenever you have a color that is too strong and you want to tone it down, think of your color wheel and you just go what's across from it. So let's say we're making trees, they're too green. We want to neutralize the green, you add a little bit of red. If your sky is too orange and you don't want it that orange, you want to neutralize the orange, you add a tiny bit of blue. So knowing the complements of colors and what's next to each other on the color wheel is extremely helpful when you are painting. And we sell color wheels on letsmakeart.com. So if you don't want to make your own, guess what? You can just buy it from us.
How convenient.
How convenient. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting in my trees. I'm using my 6, and I'm going to start low. So I'm kind of starting with like my trunks a little bit here, kind of so. And then I'm going to start putting in my dashes and dots to make them look like trees. And remember, we want these things overlapping, and the reason why we're doing dashes is because when you do dashes and dots, it allows for white spaces in between all of these things, which is extremely important because that is true to what you see in nature, because these things are tiny little leaves. They're not solid, but when they overlap, it does get rid of those extra things. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Well, it does make sense.
Okay, great, thanks. So I'm just gonna go across and make this tree line. And if you want maybe more of a blue-green to do, put more blue in your mixture and do blue-green. Nothing wrong with that. This is your painting. And you can have it overlap as much as you want. The biggest thing to remember is that trees get narrow at the top. So you'll notice that when I do my, actually maybe we should do a close-up angle for this.
I'm already on there. How close do you want to be?
Oh, great. Just so they could see the tree really good. Like,
boom.
So when you're doing your trees, I kind of start out doing dashes at the bottom. I work my way up. And when I get to the top, I narrow it out. So that you have to think of, and some trees are different, but for the most part, they're a little triangular in shape. These kinds of trees anyway, which I'm not even in try and guess what they are.
Fir.
Fir trees?
For sure.
Pine trees? I don't know. Now that I have my tree line in, I'm gonna go, let's do another one. After I have that, I'm gonna grab a little bit of water and start blending the bottom of these trees out. And you can like go in and use some water and like mess up some of the trees that are already there, because that is the same way of how we can communicate, like there's a fog coming over this area and it's covering the top of this tree, but it's not covering the bottom of this one because that's how fog moves. And then this is just gonna fade away into like a barely there color. So you see how just by doing kind of these horizontal washout brush strokes that it almost looks like it's now fog moving over those trees. So underneath there are trees, but the fog is so thick, you can't see them. Now in watercolor, you are going to get some blooms, which is what is happening here and here and here. They're hard lines, they're textural lines, and they are super cool. So don't be mad at your paper when that happens, or mad at yourself, because honestly, it's what it's supposed to do. And I love it. I just embrace it because I'm like, hey, I didn't even mean to do that. Look how awesome it is. Watercolor does all the work for me. It's the best. And if you want to go in and adjust some of this, you can, especially if it's still wet and you want it to kind of just like blend out. I'm not gonna go all the way. Well, yeah, let's go all the way. Let's go all the way, just because even though we're gonna put trees over there, just in case there's like, see how there's like holes through the trees? I want to make sure that there's some green in between there so they get a better idea of what's going on. I just won't do it as detailed. Oh yeah, that is looking so good. So good. Okay.
So good.
So I'm gonna blend this out, and then that's step 3. You guys did it. Good job.
Well, that wasn't that tough.
No, it really wasn't that bad. Now we're gonna do our grassy knoll. So I'm gonna put my grassy knoll, it's gonna kind of come in this way. I'm not gonna go all the way to my tree line. I'm gonna leave some white space here actually on purpose. Now, for my grassy area, I'm gonna grab yellow. I'm gonna grab, nope, no, I don't want green, sorry. I'm gonna grab yellow, and then I'm gonna grab a little bit of red, and then brown, so I get a nice, warm, beautiful dead grass color. You know what I mean?
I do. I know
so
what you mean.
It's just nice and like goldy, and like just the grass is so dead. Okay, so I'm gonna get my paintbrush a little bit wet, and then I'm gonna do kind of something similar to how I did my sky. So I'm putting in my grass. You can make your grass line whatever shape or angle you want. You can do, I'm doing funky marks, going back and forth, letting it get crazy, and then while it's wet, I'm also gonna just drop in some color and let it move. And you might be like, Sarah, What shapes are you making with your brush? Well, totally random ones that don't make any sense at all. It's seriously like you're just gonna be like, please do that sound too.
That's the ballard, the duck.
And you can see that I have some white spaces in here. That's fine. That's okay. There's highlights on grass. I'm also dropping in some darker colors. If they're not bleeding out how you want them to and they're kind of just staying polka dotty on there, guess what? Take your little paintbrush and go, come on, little fella. Move around for me. Spread out. Go crazy. You can even do water droplets in here for some way cool textures. I like to do it all. And then, after you've kind of established these crazy brush marks with different values, I'm going to grab my round 2. I'm going to grab some brown, that same brown that I used, and I'm going to do some grass textures on the top. So I'm not going to like do the entire thing with the same texture, which is what your brain is going to tell you to do. Your brain is going to be like, oh, you want grass textures across the entire thing? Okay. This is what we don't want. See how evenly spaced that is? That's just not how things happen in nature, my friends. So you're going to be like, well, here's one sticking out, and maybe that's a longer one, and maybe these are short. Maybe these are kind of curved. And you can do some in here itself. It doesn't have to be just on the top. It can be in it. However you want them to stay sharp, wait till it dries a little bit more. I'm just gonna go for it though, because you know, why not? And then for me, I don't like how dark my grass is sticking out of here because it doesn't match the ground that's underneath it. Does that make sense? Like the grass is too dark.
The contrast? Like
the textures that I just put in are too dark for this area because it was coming out like of a light value. Oh. So I'm going to blend them out and re-put them in there with a value that matches. That looks way more natural to me.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too. Look at the value or the color that's around of where your grass is going to be poking out of and try and have those be similar. They don't have to be exactly the same, but enough to where it won't be distracting. Doesn't that just look like a field of like wheat? This reminds me of California. Like, it does. In the summer, this is what's there. It's just like
cooked.
Yeah, it's just totally cooked, which can be pretty. We actually took family pictures at a park where there's a bunch of this grass, and it just gave everything a gold feel, a really warm gold feel at sunset. They were gorgeous. I'll post one.
You should.
Because they're really pretty.
Hashtag
okay.
Proud.
Hashtag proud. Hashtag love my family. Hashtag family photos. Hashtag
family goals.
Family goals. Okay.
Hashtag dead grass.
Hashtag dead grass all day. Okay, now we are going to move on to, look at my notes. Step 5, our big tree. We're on our last step.
What?
I know. So to do our big tree, what we're going to do is we're going to put our trunk in first, and then we are going to do our leaves. However, take a moment, you guys, to look at your painting, because once you put this tree in, you cannot mess with the background, or you can't mess with the whole background. So like for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what, this feels pretty good, but I do want slightly more color in this area than what I have now. The white space over here on the right side is okay because this is going to be taken up by trees. So I'm really just focusing in on this. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can take a little bit of that green and do another and just bring down a little bit of that color. Now keep in mind, because this is dry and I'm doing a wash on top of it, it is going to create blooms and textures. It's going to do that. That's okay. Don't get mad at the watercolor for doing its job. You know what I mean? And in this painting, we kind of want that to happen, so it's okay. Maybe I'll do some like darker ones up here. Some darker marks. Yeah, there we go. Bring that really light green wash just down just a little bit more. Yeah, that feels better. Okay, now I'm not staring at such a huge white area on my paper that it distracts me from everything else. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do for our trees is we're gonna put in our trunk. We wanna make sure it's dark brown. So we have blue, we have yellow. This is gonna be the green for our leaves. And for our dark brown, I'm gonna take some of this green, grab some red, mix that together. Look at that gorgeous dark brown. So good. You can even use the actual brown that you have if you want. I'm just a fan of mixing colors, I really am. Okay, so now I have this like reddish dark brown. I'm gonna do my trunk. It's gonna start my grass. It's gonna go up to over this. And if it leans a little, that's okay. Trees grow crooked sometimes. If you want it straight up, you can have it straight up. Totally up to you. You just want to make sure it's going to start off thick at the bottom. And then as you go up, it narrows. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse my brush. And I'm going to do another thing using mostly water right next to it. Just right next to it, I'm going to thicken it up. And it's okay that it's a lighter value because trunks have form themselves. So one side is going to be darker than the other, and that's okay. Now, because this is lighter weight paper, or because the paper is not 100% cotton, the more layers of water and paint you put on this paper, it's going to start to warp, which is why I taped my down. I'm so sorry I didn't say that at the beginning of this project.
On the fifth step is good. Better than never.
On the last step,
yeah.
Tell them what they should do first. I'm sorry, but hopefully you noticed that my painting was taped, and I did that on purpose because I knew that this paper would start to warp as I did this entire thing. So this helps it just like, it won't bend as much, and even if it does bend, I can still paint. Where if this was free, it would start to like pick up and crinkle. Okay, so there is my trunk. If you want, you can have grass poking out of your trunk. It's like overlapping or something like that. Why not?
Looks good.
Maybe that's too much. If it's too much, you never stress out because watercolor, you just blend it out and it's like it never was there. It's so great. Bam. I love this texture that happened right here with those water drops. So good. Okay. Now, when we are doing our tree, I have this really wonderful green. If you want it more of a yellow green, you add more yellow. If you want it more of a blue green, you add more blue. If you want to tone down the saturation of the green, add in a swoop of red. That will neutralize it. Don't do too much red because then it will turn it brown. That's a good green. You just want to make sure it's nice and dark. So, I'm going to start. So if you look at my tree, it's triangular in shape. There are white spaces in between. It looks like there are branches coming off. And there's also tiny little textural lines. So that's a great place to start. Here's our kind of bottom branch. Like if this is our branch poking out. And then we're going to do these kind of markings on it. And I like to get a full range of value. So I put in my green and then I like to like darken some of the areas too. And this is why using a round brush is very wonderful because I can do a thick mark using the side, or I can use more of the tip and adjust my pressure and get a thinner line. Like so. So it's going out. I'm going to do my next kind of branch coming out. It's going to be a little bit shorter than my first one. I'm going to start doing marks, lifting my brush, doing dashes. It's going to kind of come to a point. Now also the branches overlap themselves, so it's okay if these run into each other, We kind of want them to. If you spread them out too far, and there are trees like that, so if yours looks like that, that's okay. There are trees that are kind of sparse looking. So that's why I really like trees. They're like safe. It's like somewhere I know that there is a tree that looks like that, so it's okay that I did this. Okay, and then we're gonna do our next chunk, so it's like, oh. Do the mark. Make sure you cover the trunk too, that's a big thing. The branches not only come to the side, but they're coming out in front because it's a three-dimensional thing. There are branches and leaves that surround the tree. So it's not like you're just doing arms on a tree and putting leaves on the arms. The arms are also coming out of the front of the tree as well. So cover up that trunk a little bit.
That explains why all my trees look crazy.
Do all your trees look like this?
Yes.
Spread out fingers for the leaves.
Freeze frame.
And then what I also like to do is I will actually use a little bit of water to maybe start to help spread out some of my branches, because that's going to give me a lighter value. So even when you're doing like leaves, you got to pay attention to, do I have dark values in there? Do I have light values in there? And do I have medium values in there? And that's just going to add to the dimension of your tree. And then when you get to the top of your tree, your branches are going to get, or your leaves are going to get like really like thin. So sometimes I'll like go thin and then I'll work my way down from there. And another thing that you can do is, because I know it's really difficult, your brain is going to be fighting you. You're going to want to be doing the same exact brush stroke on the end of all of your branches. So the parameter, the outline of your tree has a rhythm to it. You don't want that. Your brain is going to tell you to do it. I'm telling you not to do it. You can take your round 2 and go in on some of these and create like little wispies on some of them too, and switch up the thickness of your lines and your edges on your trees and branches. Trying to look at it.
It helps if you open your eyes.
Oh, no way.
Hi.
Keenan.
Little pro tip.
You're so good at this. Do you want to teach?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, there's one tree. Let's do another tree because I just feel like it needs a friend. So I'm going to put in another kind of coming off the side here. I'm going to have it shorter. Oh, that got crooked, but that's okay because I'm covering it with leaves anyway. So like, don't let something like that hold you up. Okay. And now, actually I'm going to keep using my 6, put in some greens, and this is where they're really going to overlap and get messy on this side, and that is okay. Now my brown is still really wet as I'm adding this green, so it's blending out. I don't care. I think that's cool. If you do care, wait for your trunk to dry and then do the leaves on top. This one I'm going to make feel a little bit more sparse. There. And if you really want, you can even do a third tree in between them. Just if you want to communicate that it's farther away, do it in a lighter value. And just do that by adding water. That's it. That's all you got to do. But of course, please take the time to take a step back from the tree that you painted. Look at it. See if there's anything that you need to change or adjust. When you're right on top of it painting, it's really hard to see what it looks like. So take a picture of it or put it far away and then look at it. Don't be afraid to make this project yours. Totally customizable. You can put You can put an eagle flying in the sky. You can do more trees. Maybe there's like a flower poking out. I don't know, why not? You know what I'm saying? So have fun with this project. I would love to see how they turn out. If you paint it, share it, put it on Instagram. You can tag us in it, Let's Go Make Art, or hashtag Let's Make Art. We have a wonderful Facebook group that was created just for the sole purpose of sharing artwork. That's it. It's really wonderful and a safe place to go if you want to start posting your work, because we all understand that we celebrate every stage of your watercolor journey. There are people who encourage you and help you, and you can see how other people are approaching the same project. And that is called Let's Make Art Watercolor. So look us up, join it. It's a lot of fun. I think that's all I gotta say, right?
I think so.
Okay, good job, you guys. Bye.
I'm recording again. Maybe it will just keep recording. It's the same project. Who knows? That'd be kind of neat. We'll find out.
Do I have a booger sticking out?
I don't think so.
I feel like I do. I really want to pick
Clouds
my
are
nose.
clear.
Okay. Is it going?
It's going.
Okay. Pull away when you're undoing your tape.
Maybe I can just be like, ooh, JK, intermission is what we meant by goodbye.
Well, just look at,
I'll see where I can.
it's so satisfying to get a clean edge. It's just, so watch this one.
Oh.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. So pull away from your paper. Don't get stuck to other things.
Watch out for children.
Watch out for children. Watch out for pets. This will stick straight to your dog or your cat, you know? The tape will, not your painting.
Not the painting.
And there you go. Now you have a nice clean border. Isn't that so satisfying?
That is.
Now we're done.
Nice.
Bam.